Welcome to video lecture series. I am Dr. S. M. Farooq, Associate Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, KSRM College of Engineering, Kadapa. I have completed my BTech and MTech from JNTU Hyderabad and PhD from YVU Kadapa. My research areas are cybersecurity in smart grid and vehicular attack network. I have 16 research publications in my profile, and I am a reviewer for many international journals, reputed journals like IEEE, Elsewhere, Springer, Wiley. I am a life member of Institute of Engineers of India and senior member of IEEE. Today I would like to give a lecture on how to write research proposal and list of funding agencies in India. Now, what is a research proposal? In order to understand the definition of research proposal, let us, for example, if we are planning to travel to know the history of some monuments, say for example, if you are a very much ponder about knowing the history about different places of by visiting them. Suppose I want to go to Charminar, say to Hyderabad. If you want to know the historical facts about Charminar, say for example, what could be the preparatory works you will do? Let me know. Any answer from your side? Yes? Any answers, please? Okay. You will plan for journey. So before that, you will do something like you will read some historical reports about Charminar, which is already prepared by some authentic historians. You will read some books, history books. Okay. You will plan a journey. Okay. Then after going there, so you will plan how to do survey, what kind of people you want to interact. You will plan to meet the local people. You will plan to have interactions with local historians, the famous historians about who knows about Charminar, etc. Now what you will do, so after getting information about interacting with the local people as well as historical historians, you will prepare a report so that your work can be published or your work can be authenticated. In the same manner, so these are some activities you may plan. You may plan a journey to visit the place physically. You may read some authentic history books. So I say authentic here. So please note this point: authentic history books. Talking local people, taking interviews with historians, or archaeological survey of India, personal, etc. You may prepare a timeline of your visit. That is most important. So suppose you are planning for a 1 week tour, so you may prepare a timeline. So for first 2 days, you will meet the local people. Remaining 2 days, you will interact with the historians as well as archaeological survey of India personnel. The last 2 days, you will dedicate your time for preparation of report. So something like you will have some timeline. You may prepare a report about your findings. Finally, you do budgeting also. So how much it requires to complete this journey. So these are the some activities you may plan when you want to know some historical facts about a particular place. Then, what is a research proposal? So here you can understand the same things. You may plan a journey to visit the place physically, so nothing but you need to have some objective. So what is the objective? Objective is to know the historical facts about a history, about the Charminar. So objective should be defined. No, you may read some authentic history books, that is literature survey you will do. So already some historical, some persons like you may already done some work. They might have written some books. So you will do some kind of literature survey. So talking to local people, talking with taking interviews with historians and ASA personnel. So nothing but what kind of methods you will apply in order to get the facts, historical facts. So research methodology, you can name it as research methodology. So you may prepare a timeline, nothing but it is nothing but time frame. You need to have time frame, nothing but the schedule of your journey. You may prepare a report, nothing but whatever the findings you captured, you gathered through the research methods. So that will be published through conferences and journals. You do budgeting finally, nothing but budget estimation. So how much required in order to complete your research objective, achieve your research objective. Now, after knowing, after understanding in a general sense, now coming to the technical term of research proposal. What is a research proposal? A research proposal is a plan of future activities to implement a research project. You will have some objective in your mind. You want to implement your plan, your goal, your objective. So, in order to implement your goal, so what are the future activities you will plan? That should be mentioned in a form of document. That document is called research proposal. So, what could be that plan? That plan may include research summary, nothing but the outline, research problem, nothing but the ideation, the idea which you want to implement. It may consist of synopsis, plan, budget estimation, time frame, etc., depending upon why the research is carried out. So it deals with ideas of researcher about what research wants to do, what objectives and methodology, how much time and resources are required, how the research finding are to be reported, and so on. So in summary, so these are the things to be included in a research proposal. So basically, a research proposal is a work plan. It's a prospectus, or you can say it's an outline. In simple terms, a researcher proposing a work frame to complete a research project. So that is a research proposal. Now, some questions need to answer before starting a research proposal. So, what is the importance of the problem chosen? You will get many ideas in your mind. So, you want to develop a prototype, you want to develop a mechanism, you want to implement a method, some technique, you want to apply some kind of existing technique in a new area, a new challenging field. You will get many ideas. Now, you need to mention what is the importance of the problem chosen. So after, okay, you are trying to solve some kind of problem, you need to show in the document, the research proposal document, what is the importance of your problem chosen. Say for example, you want to implement a cyber security mechanism, say for IoT environment, Internet of Things. You need to show that why you are want to implement cybersecurity mechanism. What is the existing problems? If you are not implementing, if you are not proposing this work, so what problems could be faced by the IoT network? That you need to mention. So if there is security, if there is no security, then definitely the IoT network is vulnerable to cyber attacks. So various number of attacks are possible nowadays. So ad hoc kind of networks may not be sustainable if cyber security mechanisms are not applied. So you need to show the importance. Then only reviewers can understand and give focus. Okay, this is the problem. It has more significant. It has more importance in the current days. So that is the first point to be understood. What is the importance of problem chosen that we need to mention in the research proposal? So these are the points to be uh, noted before starting the research proposal. What information already available that you need to go through the different literature. You need to go through the publications already published. So while doing going and while reading the publications, so I personally suggest you to go through the peer reviewed journals, IEEE journals, Springer journals, so that you will get the latest information about on the current topic, whatever the topic you are trying to propose, the research project. So try to read the reputed journals. So like IEEE transaction journal, Springer journals, Elsevier journal. So it may help you. So SCA journals. So definitely it will help you to get what already work has been done in the literature. So what information already available that you need to mention, then need to have the complete information. Why you want to do research? That is also most important. What is the need of doing the what is the need of proposing this that you need to mention? How to carry out research? What are the methods you are going to apply? Whether you are doing a kind of simulation through using some kind of software, whether you are applying emulation or you are preparing a test bed kind of thing, whether you are trying to do both kind of software and hardware combination. So it depends on the research area, whether it belongs to the research stream, whether computer science or mechanical engineering or any applied sciences, anything that depends on the research. What kind of how to carry out the research? That nothing but what are the methods you are going to use in order to carry out the research that you need to have in your mind. Who is going to carry out research? That is also most important. Whether you have some team or you will recruit some JRF junior research fellows so that the research can be carried out along with you. That you need to mention how the sanctioned research is monitored. So there will be some administrative mechanism depending upon the funding agency that will tell you how the research, the progress of research project can be monitored. How the research outcome is used. So that means what are who are the beneficiaries you need to mention. So after completion of my research, so these fellows are they are who are you working for? Whether you are working for the downtrodden people, whether your research is benefited to BPL line, below poverty line people, so that or your research is benefited to a particular community, you can mention. So what in what way your research outcome is beneficial, that need to mention. How much resource is required, that also mention. Suppose if you are planning to implement a test bed kind of thing, if you are planning to develop a mechanism, so in order to implement, what are the resources you required, how much computers you required, what are the hardware and software things are required, you can mention. Who will provide the resource? Definitely the funding agencies. So you need to have target on idea about what are the funding agencies are available and what kind of funds they will provide, that we need to mention. They need to know how the fundings will be publicized. Definitely whatever the outcomes, whatever the findings you will reach after completion of your project work, so that outcomes can be published through conferences and journals. So here try to prefer the SCA journals or at least Scopus index journals, so that it will have some value more. It will increase your research can be reached to many researchers across the world, across the countries. how and where the findings will be submitted. So finally, definitely, whatever the research completed, that should be finally submitted to the research agency, which from where you got funding. So, so these are nothing but what is the importance of problem chosen? Nothing but this is called problem prioritization and justification. What information already available? Nothing but you need to do literature's review. Why you want to do research? Nothing but your aim and objective. How to carry out research methodology. Who is going to carry out research? Nothing but personnel, other, nothing but JRF, etc. How the sanctioned research is monitored? Nothing but some kind of research administrative plan or body depends on the research scheme. How the research outcome is used? Nothing but the beneficiaries or users, the final. In what way your research is benefited? So beneficiaries you need to mention. How much resource is required? Nothing but you need to have a budget. Who will provide the resource? Nothing but funding agencies. How the findings will be publicized? Nothing but in the form of conference proceedings and journal publications. How and where the findings will be submitted? Finally, the proposal report to sanctioned funding agency. So these are the key points to be noted when we start writing the research proposal. Something to be understood. So you can say the key some notes to be understood. While writing a research proposal, try to ensure that PI, Principal Investigators, PhD research work synchronizes with the topic of the research proposal. It means that if you have done research on machine learning algorithms or applying machine learning in medical data or healthcare, now after completion of PhD, you have awarded PhD, now you started working on cybersecurity. Now you are writing research proposal on cybersecurity to vehicular ad hoc network, say for example. Now it shows it will not synchronize because you have dedicated your time in machine learning algorithms in your PhD, but now you are trying to tell to the reviewer that you are expert in cybersecurity. So reviewers hardly uh, believe you that okay because you have invested your time nearly 4 years, 5 years, 6 years in PhD work in a particular topic, in a particular domain. Now you're shifting to a new domain, or at least to have, so it may give you a negative impact on the reviewer. So what I personally suggested, better have to have your research work, PhD work, synchronizing with the topic of the research proposal, or else if the topics are different it's no problem, but at least publish, have some demonstrated work in your research proposal topic. Suppose you are working on, currently you are working on cyber security, no problem, at least publish 2 to 3 journals in the SCA journals on cyber security area, then mention in your profile that okay I have already have demonstrated knowledge on cyber security, so definitely reviewers will approve your research proposal. That is the second thing. Don't use the same content of the research proposal written for applying a particular scheme of funding agency. Change the orientation by understanding semantics of the target scheme. Suppose you have written a research proposal for AICTE research promotion scheme, for example, RPS. But your proposal was not accepted, say for example. Now you want to apply for another scheme, say UGC major project. If you are trying to using or just applying the same content to the another scheme, it may not be useful. So that means you need to reorient the content so that it suits the target scheme. That is, you are applying for UGC major project, so you need to go to the guidelines document, how a major project should be looks like, what are the contents, what should be the orientation that you need to understand. Then you need to rewrite the or content or reorient the content such that in such a way that it suits the target scheme. It's like simple. If you are publishing a submitting a journal manuscript for a journal, you generally will check the scope of the journal. If scope of the journal is not suits for your manuscript, definitely you won't submit. It's as simple as like this. So a research proposal is intended to convince others that you have a worthwhile research project and that you have the competence and the work plan to complete it. Because you don't know directly or about who are reviewers. Reviewers also don't know about you, your demonstrated knowledge. So only it is a document through which you need to convince to the reviewers of the research proposal that you have to have the research plan. You have already had the demonstrated knowledge on through in the form of publications. So your profile speaks, then your at the same time your document speaks. So in what way you are written, uh, so that so your document should try to convince to the reviewer that okay, you have really good knowledge and have a work plan in order to implement the research proposal. So you have that competency. So it that's why research proposal document is so important. Generally, a research proposal should contain all the key elements involved in the research process and include sufficient information for the readers to evaluate the proposed study. That means whatever the key points which I explained in my previous slides. So these key points should be mentioned in the research proposal so that the readers of the research proposal can easily evaluate your research proposal plan in a complete manner. So try to include sufficient information. Regardless of what your research area and the methodology you choose, all research proposal must address the following questions. So what you plan to accomplish, why you want to do it and how you are going to do it. So to the proposal should have sufficient information to convince your readers that you have an important research idea, that you have a good grasp of the relevant literature and the major issues, and that your methodology is sound. So your research proposal should consist of the title, definitely. It should be very concise, descriptive, informative, and catchy title. Uh, it in the sense that by seeing the title, uh, reviewers, the readers can try to understand that you want to, they should get some kind of idea that you want to implement a particular topic. It should be concise, descriptive, informative, and a catchy title. Coming to the abstract, it is a brief summary of approximately 300 words. It should include the research question, the rationale for the study, the hypothesis, if any, the method, and the main findings. Use the relevant terminology or nomenclature of the subject domain, which improve the quality of the abstract. So that means in the simple terms, abstract should be succinct in such a way that it should give a brief idea about what is the research question, the rationale behind the study, and what he wants to implement, what are the methods he will apply in order to implement. Finally, whether the after implementation, whether it definitely gives some value or not. So all the things should be included in the abstract. Coming to the introduction section, it provides the necessary background or context for your research problem. That means, in the simple terms, introduction should provide the readers about the idea about the your research proposal. At the same time, the literature survey we need to mention. At the same time, there should be a knowledge gap. So that means after overall introduction about your research proposal, after have producing some kind of literature survey in your research area, yeah, you need to show the some kind of research gap. So this is the gap that should be filled. knowledge gap. Otherwise, introduction section will get invalidated. So that means framing the research problem, specify the context of your research question. So on which context you are framing your research question. Uh, Suppose, for example, you are trying to implementing a cyber security mechanism for vehicular data network. Now you try to frame the context in such a way that so the main advantage of VANETs are provide safety to the vehicle drivers or passengers who are traveling. So in our the safety is more important. If safety is compromised, then it may lead to loss of lives. That may happen. So that is the context. So safety is more important. Security is most important. So VANET security is more. If there is no security, if in VANET communication, if some kind of intruder try to hack your network and send some misinformation, wrong information, fake information, definitely it may lead to accidents. So that's why I want to provide more secure mechanisms. So that kind of research question, the context you need to frame so that it will give to the readers that okay, so if in this particular context the problem it will intensify the importance of the research proposal which you are mentioning. Provide a brief and historical background, nothing but. So whatever the topic you are proposing, just give a brief introduction. So what is that and some kind of historical background. Provide the contemporary context, the latest context you need to mention. What are the latest contributions? What are the latest findings already happened in the literature that I need to mention? Refer to the relevant publications. So if anything is mentioning, any findings are mentioning the latest or old one, so you need to cite them. Citing is most important so that it will you will be safeguarded from plagiarism kind of thing. So coming to the literature review, which is also another important section in the research proposal. So in the literature review, don't work on reinventing the wheel. So what do you mean by reinventing the wheel? It's as simple as like that. If you are working on, I would like to give you a simple example. Say in C language we have sqrt function, which is a built-in mathematical function. If you want to find the square root of a number, just use the function already which was already defined in math.h. If you are trying to writing a user defined function for sqrt function, it is useless because already we have a function. Just use the existing function so that it will easy for you, so that you can focus the rest of the time for implementation of the uh, program. Instead you are trying to defining the function sqrt, that is writing the logic of the sqrt function. It is wasteful of time. That is reinventing the wheel. So someone already worked on a particular problem, and you again doing the same thing is nothing but it is reinventing the wheel. So try to avoid this kind of thing. In the literature review, so you need to have the sequence of research findings that should be mentioned on the document. So say so and so researcher one, he has done a particular problem, he has provided a solution. Researcher two, he found the flaws in the solution specified in the research by the researcher one. Again, researcher two solved the previous problem. Researcher three, again he found the problems in both solutions provided by researcher one and researcher two, and he tried to provide a new solution. So that such kind of sequence, if you are providing in the literature survey, definitely it will add a value to the research proposal. So you are telling to the reader that you have a, specific problem research question to be solved. So because literature review, it will give to the good idea to the readers that you really want to solve this knowledge gap. Explain how other researchers in your domain solve the problem with proper citations to avoid plagiarism. That's I told you. Demonstrates your knowledge of the research problem, demonstrates your understanding of the theoretical and research issues related to your research question. That means if you already published some solutions in the the problem which you are proposing, so you specify your uh, demonstrated publications also. Critically evaluate relevant literature information. Chronology is useful. That's why I told you researcher 1 has published in the year 2010, researcher 2 published in the year 2012, researcher 3 published in the year 2014. So if chronology is mentioned by in the sequence manner, it will helpful to the readers to understand the knowledge gap, provides new theoretical insights or develops a new method model as a conceptual framework for your research. Specify clearly about the knowledge gap, what other researcher did not solve. This is the most important thing to be mentioned, that what is the knowledge gap. Oh, nothing but what is the problem you want to solve which other researcher did not solve. If this is not there in the literature review, then definitely all your effort will get invalidated. So be careful to try to mention this knowledge gap so that it will convince the readers of the research proposal. Convinces your reader that your proposed research will make a significant and a substantial contribution to the literature. So that knowledge gap will convince the readers that okay, definitely after completion of your research project, it will make a significant contribution to the literature. No, you need to mention the methods section. What are the methodologies you are applying? The method section is very important because it tells your research committee how you plan to tackle your research problem. It will provide your work plan and describe the activities necessary for the completion of your project. The guiding principle for writing the method section is that it should contain sufficient information for the reader to determine whether methodology is sound or not. So sufficient information, nothing but you need to mention what are the methods you want to implement, uh, if you in order to implement, what resources you require, so that budgeting you need to mention. So all these things should be mentioned in the methods. Some quantitative studies, the method for quantitative studies, the method section typically consists, so it depends on the research domain. If you are proposing on statistical methods, if you are proposing a applied sciences, if you are proposing a research proposal on computer science big background, so it depends on the domain in which you are proposing the research proposal. Finally, result section, obviously you do not have results at the proposal stage, definitely. However, you need to have some idea about what kind of data you will be collecting and what statistical procedures will be used in order to answer your research question or test your hypothesis. Finally, a kind of discussion. It is important to convince your reader of the potential impact of your proposed research. You need to communicate a sense of enthusiasm and confidence without exaggerating the merits of your proposal. That is why you also need to mention the limitations and weaknesses of the proposed research, which may be justified by time and financial constraints as well as by the early developmental stage of your research area. So some common mistakes which I have collected from Paul T.P. Wong, PhD. He is a research director, graduate program in counseling psychology, Trinity Western University, Canada. Whatever we taught, we have been listening till now. So this most of the points covered here. These are some sections in the research proposal title. Whatever the things we have discussed now. So this thing mentioned here. Uh, it is a time schedule or work plan, budget, and organizational. In addition to these things, we have to mention time schedule also, budget, as well as organization of the report or chapter outline. Finally, bibliography, references, and conclusion. Some tricks: read and read, take notes, talk to supervisors. So before, while preparing the research proposal, you need to have more, you had to have read more number of journal publications, so that it will get you good knowledge on what are the current findings and what could be the future prospectus. So take note, talk to supervisors, experts, write topics and topics. Get confused, get afraid. Generate a number of research questions, systematize research questions. Cut down these in line with your coherent thinking. So some techniques I mentioned here uh, while preparing the research proposal. So these are do's and don'ts. What should be the do's and don'ts? Produce or prepare a professional looking proposal, make it interesting, make it informative, meaningful, write easy way to read, present content in a page, use clear headings, subheadings, be concise, precise, check spelling, grammar, present in accurate or acceptable format. Don'ts: use no word which you do not understand, use of difficult word in unimpressive to the readers, supervisory or authority. One sample literature survey I have mentioned here. So you can write research literature survey in many forms. So generally, what I prefer is in the form of a table, which will give a revision, quick idea to the readers of the research proposal. So here I mentioned, suppose there is a scheme called pseudonym based authentication. Uh, it is proposed in the references 22 comma 20. So what is the scheme? What are the limitations? Now, in order to overcome this limitation, the next scheme is IT based signature. What it is, IT based signature, that I mentioned in the description. Then what are its limitations? So this schemes proposed in the journals 24 comma 25. So the limitations are trying to overcome by group signature scheme. So it has what it is in the description I mentioned. What are its limitations that I mentioned in the fourth column. So like this, if you try to mention in a sequence manner, definitely it will give you a quick understanding of the research question for which you are preparing and for which you are trying to solve. This is a time frame you need to mention. So in how many months, how many years you are going to complete your research proposal, research project. So 0 to 6 months, what are the activities you will plan? The remaining 6 to 12 months, 12 to 18 months, 18 to 20, so 24 to 30, 30 to 36. So overall, within 3 years, I will try to complete my research proposal. So what are the activities you will carry out that we need to mention in each phase? Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5, phase 6. So this is a sample example. So this is budget sample. Generally, we will try to mention recurring expenditure and non-recurring expenditure. So recurring expenditure nothing but for every year, what are the expenditure you will expect, whereas non-recurring, that's one-time investment. So one sample I have given. Suppose you are recruiting a research associate or JRF. So how much we need to pay for JRF and research associate for each year? Then you need to mention here. Consumables comes under recurring, travel and other costs, whereas permanent equipment comes under non-recurring. I think, like if you want to buy a server or projector or something, computer, laptop, it depends on your project requirement. Finally, some list of funding agencies, as time is we are completing at the end of the time. Uh, these are some of the list of funding agencies. Uh, Try to go through it. It requires another lecture on what are the different schemes provided by funding agencies. So again, we need to have the knowledge on what are the different types of schemes provided by different funding agencies of India, so that it will helpful to write the research proposal in the proper manner. This is the Thank you very much for your